Welcome to day 5 of the Get Your First Pickleball Client Challenge. And I'm so excited because you've got this far, and maybe right now you're watching this having landed your first client. If not, it's going to happen very, very soon. Now, you probably notice, Simon, oh my God, what's that green band? I'll talk about that a little bit later on. But let's do a recap of what you've learned so far. In day 1, we covered everything mindset. We talked about fear. We talked about state of mind. We talked about the things that could potentially be blocking you around self-sabotage. And that's important to understand. Remember that question? What is your biggest challenge? Is it you or is it strategy? And hopefully now you're clear upon that, especially as you've been moving through the challenge. On day 2, we spoke about pricing. That big question of how much should I charge? And we did that exercise and I gave you that structure and that price point of which to do your first sessions. Then we moved into the lead generation part, the marketing, putting yourself out there. Remember the switch in thinking between just pushing out posters or graphics versus adding value and becoming the trusted authority by having people know that you know what you're talking about. Very, very important. Then we moved on to the sales conversation. Remembering that the important part of that in the early stages is that you have conversations so you get to know your target demographic, and therefore you can actually tailor that first session to the person versus actually having them click a button on the website and you not really knowing much about them before they come and see you. So now we are on the day where I want to talk about your first lesson and your first session. Now, I did mention in the welcome video that this training is not going to be teaching you what to do during that lesson. Hopefully, you have already got an idea of that structure, whether you went through a cert or you've gone through some other kind of training around drills and stuff like that, and you know that piece. But what I did want to cover is your mindset going in and some important things to do from a coaching angle outside of, say, pickleball coaching. Because there's the drills that you're going to do, but there's also the business mind that also goes into that session. Because here's what I don't want to have happen. I don't want for you to have just this person be just a one-off session, where actually there's actually bigger goals. But let's first of all talk about some of the things that can come up. So first of all, I want to talk about reducing overwhelm. Now, this can happen for both people. So there's the overwhelm of you going into that first paid session because now this person has paid you. Things might come up of, am I going to do a good job? And by the way, all of these things are legitimate and they show that you care. So don't worry too much, but it's also important to understand that you, and remember this from the last training, you know now what that person wants to deal with. And probably the biggest misconception about coaching is that I need to pile everything in. Like, think about this challenge. I could have piled in all of, a bunch of things, right? And what would have happened is it would have created overwhelm for people. But actually, by doing it step by step and keeping it simple, it keeps it lean, and then people can follow those steps. So you may feel like, I need to get this in, I need to get that in. And actually what happens is you will create overwhelm for that person. And that is a very common theme for first pickleball lessons for new coaches. So I would say, yes, have a number of things that you can do, but keep your lesson simple, keep it streamlined. Don't overwhelm people too much. Once you know the 1 to 3 things that you're going to cover, focus on that. And then you're not going to leave feeling like I overwhelmed that person because it's just too much for them. The next thing to understand, which is positive rewards. Some people are not natural at giving positive affirmations. And it's actually really good to, over time, I think with your clients, as you get and build that relationship, I do it with my clients, finding out what their love languages are, right? So if that person, needs more positive affirmation. But one simple thing to do is to be very aware that you really want to be planting those seeds with your clients of, things that they're doing well. Because it's not just about having them feel good, right? It's also impacting their performance during the sessions, right? So that was great, right? And also understanding that if there's something quote unquote negative, what you want to do is bring in the positive before you give the constructive feedback on what could improve. Hey, this is what was really great about this. This is how you can improve it, because here's what can happen. If we are of a certain personality that steers away, and many people are like this, steers away from the positive affirmation and just goes in with the criticism, what will happen during the session is that person will start to tighten up. Remember what I talked about state change, right? So you gotta be attuned, and this is part of your attunement to yourself, attuning with the client of how they're responding to what you're saying to them. Is it overwhelming them? Is it too much? I'll give you one example. When I was playing an open play, I was having an issue when I first started with scoring, and I explained that to somebody when I was playing, and then during most of the game, they were like, every single time we served, or every time there was a new point, they would be like teaching me the scoring, and I was completely overwhelmed, and I had to say, hey, I appreciate the feedback, but this is creating overwhelm for me and I can't focus. So it was reason why I'm sharing this is it was well intended. I shared part of my responsibility. I shared that a reason why what I wanted to improve on was scoring. And then that person started feeding me coaching during the game, but it became too overwhelming for me. So one thing to be aware of. So positive rewards, very important. Then the other thing, which is more on the business aspect, is planting seeds, okay? Planting seeds to how they can progress further with you. This is something that we can be working on in the future as an example. That's an example of planting seeds, okay? So by planting seeds, it's also future pacing, right? Future pacing to the next level, because here's the reality, and let's use another industry completely different to give you perspective. Let's look at dating. Let's just say someone's single and they want to get married and they have low confidence. Think about how many steps there are from dating to getting married. There's asking someone out. There's all of that rejection potentially that can come up. Then if they have a conversation, there's getting a phone number. But then even if they have a phone number, it doesn't mean that someone's going to respond. There's a whole amount of training necessary, for someone who has low confidence about how to interact during that conversation. Then what about the first date? Then after the first date, then how do you move the relationship onto the next level? So just understand that throughout a journey of a client, yes, you may have a lot of one-offs, but actually it is up to you to plant the seeds so that they move along a timeline, especially if they're really serious and committed around performance and getting to the next level. And actually a lot of people will stay with you as they progress through the journey, especially if you do a good job in that first initial lesson. So the future pacing of what they can do and how they can progress, as long as it's within integrity and you actually feel that way, I think it's important to allow people to move forward with you if that's what they want to do. Okay. Also in here, I've got dealing with difficult situations. So there's gonna be time to time. There's gonna be times where you're gonna have to deal with situations that come out of nowhere. This can actually be prior to them showing up for the session. One thing, by the way, I should mention, which is make sure that you do some reminders day before, day of, to increase show up rate. I should have mentioned that before, but important also. But maybe the person has a freak out. Maybe they have a certain attitude, right? what I want to say here with difficult situations is have the confidence that you can deal with it in the moment by bringing in empathy, asking questions, sensing how people feel. Actually, before they even step onto the court, you want to tune in with how they're feeling. Like, are they feeling anxious? Maybe taking them through, a mini breathing exercise or something just to get them grounded, or something that you do within the warm-up to help them feel more relaxed, right? So we don't know what happens prior to someone showing up. They could have just gone through a breakup or, any number of situations that can happen. So just know that you can deal with that as long as you be present with someone and you listen, right? Because sometimes, yes, while you're a coach, it's also important just to say, hey, like, share with me what's going on, and then just listen and listen. Biggest part of healing actually is just to have someone listen. And then people say, oh my God, I've never been hurt, because people need to vent. People need to let it out. So a lot of the time, difficult situations, or quote unquote, what we think is a bad experience, actually can just be dealt with presence, with listening, active listening, really being listening, and also eye contact. So if you feel that something is off with a client, go get close to them and maintain eye contact so that they especially feel like you're present with them. So presence is about eye contact. It's also about active listening, really listening. And then when you hear something, letting them know that you've heard it by sharing with them that you've heard it. So this is what I'm hearing is a great phrase to use. I'm giving you some other coaching skills here, but what I'm hearing is that you are feeling that. Okay. Let's address that. Right? Share more. If you get stuck in a conversation, tell me more is a great way to elicit more information from that client. Okay. So all of these things can be useful because we don't know what's going to happen during a set. Now, most of the time, things are going to go fine, of course, but I'm just helping you ahead for times, especially if you do put too much in and overload people, then you may end up dealing with a situation whereby their feedback is, that was a lot for me to take in, and then if they feel that way, then it probably won't impact them working with you again. It's just what's most important is that you receive the feedback so that you can adjust, because most people are freaking kind, especially in pickleball, right? So that's a little bit about dealing with difficult situations. Okay. This is really about the next level. So a pickleball business, especially as a coach, there's a journey that you go on. There's milestones. Actually, milestones is really important, right? So milestones during this program, right? You've got the milestone of, for example, in the lead generation, someone responding to you on social and then someone messaging you. That's a great milestone. Getting into a phone conversation, right? That's a milestone. Making a sale, that's a big milestone for a lot of people. Wow, mental breakthrough, shift. Okay, someone now is willing to pay me, when actually they've been telling me, inviting to pay me for a while, and I've been saying no, and now I said yes, right? That is actually very common. So a milestone after you've done your first session is what's called an upsell, right? It's them feeling good about the session and then you inviting them into the next level with you. So this is where, when I work with my clients, this is when we're putting together $1,000 packages, $2,500 packages, corporate, stuff like that, right? So just understand that during this first session, there is an avenue for you to then move them into, for example, a semi-private group sessions, other things moving forward. So I just want to have that be on your radar to make sure that you don't just finish the session and then be like, oh, contact me when you want another session. Because yes, you can do that. You can use this formula to get more sessions, one-on-one sessions. But there's also another optimized route for your pickleball business, where now you're starting to structure different open plays, different packages, right? And you start to have, basically multiple ways that people can invest with you at different levels. Like, I have my clients and they have like private VIP level, and they have, semi-private level, and then they're building other things because they want to grow their business and leverage their time, right? So just understand, this is what I want to make you aware of. This first lesson is the opening to then a bigger package, because most likely what you don't actually want to do is just keep on taking $50 payments for every session. What you can start to do actually is sell outcomes and bigger packages based upon where they want to be, because hopefully that first session has created a bond with you. And now this is where we can start to scale the business to the next level. And if you want to have that discussion, actually a great time to do it is now, and or the time when you've booked when your first session is booked and you want to get clarity on the next thing to do. And there'll be a button around here or a link to move on with that, right? So very important to understand what a streamlined route is for your business versus what most people are teaching. Because what most people are teaching out there, and this is not just in the pickleball space, this is also in the fitness space too, which is sell a session, sell another session, and actually your business is going to become harder. It's going to add more stress to your business actually doing that way, but there's actually an optimized route, right? I want to know, I generally mean this. I want to know when your first session is and you've got that win. Make sure that you use the community to share your wins, because that is what this challenge is about. It's about you celebrating the fact that you have got your first session booked. And if you want to move it to the next level, I'm here. If you want to move to green, let's have a conversation. Again, the links will be around here. So thank you for joining this 5-day challenge. If you know of other pickleball coaches that are maybe thinking about getting certified, they're at that stage, or others in different areas, you're in communities, please do share this. Like, I'm on a mission here, because there's low success rates for a lot of people because they get stuck. And I would love it. It would mean a lot to me if you found this challenge valuable, that you just let people know about it. It's really a gift from me to the pickleball space, because I know for many people, as soon as they get this sale, then their business is really going to start to get to the next level. And then maybe it's going to create things like people quitting their jobs if they don't like their jobs, obviously, or other opportunities happening. I know that you're going to do well, whatever area of the country or world that you're in watching this. I'm happy, and so happy that you're in pickleball. I'm really happy that you've gone through this training. You've taken the time throughout the hours that we've spent together. And here is to you moving up, changing more lives, because I know, and I'm going to be playing very soon, right? Get back on the court, that just so much awesome stuff happens on the pickleball court. One thing also that I do want to say, especially for this level, which is you have got pickleball coaching, but and I mentioned this in one of my podcasts, you've also got all of the other skills that you have. For example, one of my clients, she also, wants to teach, financial investing, and she's also into personal development. And so part of that upsell package that you can do is really about bringing in a lot of your other skills into something that makes it more unique versus trading apples for apples, because, okay, it's a pickleball coaching session. So the initial lesson is the initial lesson and the initial contact with you to build trust. But the next thing up, I don't want you to just think about that as, okay, it's more pickleball lessons. It can be, but what I'm saying is that you getting paid more, you scaling up your business, you having more freedom, like there's so much more that can be created based upon what you have as a zone of genius and what you have as, things that you want to learn and develop in. I can also talk to you about the super high performance formula, the 6-week transformation where you're developing yourself as a person, and that can actually add a lot of value to your existing clients. So let's have a conversation, but especially when you get that milestone of that first sale is a great point for us to have a conversation. I'll see you very soon, and take care.